Hey everyone, it's Jennifer with Rooted in the Rock, and I've got something dropping from the education branch right now. Hey everyone, welcome to Rooted in the Rock. I'm so glad you're here. Today is Alternatives to Public School Part 5. Hybrid schools and private schools. Now, initially in the original list, I had these, two separate things. So there were 6 parts, but I thought, these are very similar. We can group them together and compare and contrast together. So private schools, I think that doesn't really need an explanation. Most people know private school is, not a public school and is a school you pay to go to, but it's, private as in you got to pay to go there. And hybrid schools. Now, hybrid schools are kind of a new thing. There's not a lot of them, but they are growing. There are more and more popping up all the time. Hybrid schools are those where they are sort of part private school, part homeschool. Okay, it's one of those where technically, according to the state, you are, well, it depends on where you're going to, though. But like the hybrid school we were at, technically, according to the state, we were homeschooling. However, we went to school 3 days a week and did most of the big academic things at school, and then we had homework on the homeschool days. Basically, like we still did lessons at home and things like that, but it was the majority of the workload was actually on the school. So that was a really awesome middle ground. Okay, so hybrid schools are like that. Or some of them, you're not homeschooling, it is a school, but it's a hybrid in the way of it's more like the college model where it is like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and it's only like so many days a week, just like a college class would be. So it depends. You'll have to check into individual ones and see which way they do it. Okay, so private schools and hybrid schools. The first thing I have listed is application fee. Pretty much all of them, when you go and you decide, we might want to go there, usually you take a tour, schedule a tour, check the school out, check things out about it, talk to people if you know anybody that goes there. But one of the first things you do, like when you do an application, usually there's an application fee involved. And it varies from school to school, but it's pretty standard. No matter where you go, they're going to want an application fee. The next thing I have listed is entrance testing. So with private schools especially, on this end, most of the time they have some kind of entrance testing to do. Now, part of that is to just check and make sure your child is going in at the grade level that is appropriate for them, for their level. Part of that could be there are a lot of schools that they don't have like special education services and things like that, modifications, and they're just checking to make sure you know what you're supposed to know before you go in, right? Now, on that one, usually private schools have that. Hybrid schools, hit or miss. Like the one we were at, they didn't have any, and then they started having math testing, like they do a math test before you come in just to make sure you're at the right math level, because we always ended up having to move people class to class for math. Math is one of those subjects you end up doing that a lot. So just be aware of that. Don't let it make you nervous. It's totally standard, totally normal. It's just to make sure you are where just to make sure to plug you into the classes and the level where you need to be at, where is best for you. That's the way I look at it. There are people that end up trying to go to schools and they say they don't have an IEP or something like that, but they really did. And it's, trying to get your kid into a school and you really need services, but you try to get them in anyway. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's, I know you want to get into these places and things, but if your child needs special modifications or things like that, make sure they get those, because it is not helping your kid to be dishonest and not tell the whole truth. And you know what I'm saying? Like, If you're going to find a place that is the best for your child, you need to be honest about all of the things, because if you're not, then that is just, it's not, it punishes your kid, because your kid is not getting what they need where they are. You know what I'm saying? But there are people that, I'm not, anyway, there are people that do that. I've seen it happen, and it's always the kid is the one that suffers the most from that kind of thing. Okay, so I know it's hard, and it's hard to find places that have those special services that are not public school, but just do what you can. But be honest, because the child is the one who suffers, and their education is what suffers when they are not put where, with the right services and support that they need. Okay, so entrance testing. Private schools, I think it's most of the time, it depends, these are things that vary school to school. Hybrid schools, not nearly as often. Okay, all right, the next thing is tuition, and that's one of the biggest things. That is one of the most important things for a lot of people, right? You go from public school is, we do pay for it with our taxes, but generally it's no extra out of pocket except for certain fees and things, right? But with going to another school, you're going to be paying tuition and fees, etc. So with private schools, of course, it has gone up. It has gone up. So private schools versus hybrid schools with tuition. Private schools, you can expect the tuition to be anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 a year. And I'm sure in some places, there are places that are even more than that. But we're not even going to go there, okay? 10 to 30,000. Now, the big Christian school, technically it is in this county. It's in our county, but it's like on the other end of the county from us. But it's the big Metro Atlanta one. Like anybody in this county, if you said the name, everybody would know what you're talking about. Huge school, beautiful campus and facilities. They go from pre-K to high school, and they have all the bells and whistles and all the things. However, they're the highest tuition around here. Like, it is nuts. Well, they even have bus service too. But anyway, for kindergarten, they start at just over $20,000 a year for kindergarten. And it goes up for 6th grade to 12th grade. It's almost 29. It's 28.7 something, I think. But like 28,000, over 28,000 a year every year for 6th through 12th grade. That's a car every year. I don't know anybody who can afford to pay cash for a car every year. But anyway, it's huge. Now, there's a local one that we have right here. I did my student teaching there when I did my master's, and I love them. They are awesome, and they are right about $10,000 a year. It goes up to $11,000 for the older grades. So much more reasonable compared, right? Okay. Another one that's really popular out here, they're out in another city. Last time I checked, they were around $15,000 a year. They're probably, everything has gone up lately, so they're probably a little more now, but it was around $15,000 a year for that one. So that's the thing about private schools. That is probably the one most thing that trips up everybody on that is the cost, because most normal people can't afford that. So hybrid schools, however, you're still getting to go to school and have a classroom and a teacher and have that experience, but it's only part of the week, which is really great. It's great for flexibility. And the cost, usually most of the ones I have seen have been between $3,000 and $6,000 a year. So huge difference. A third of the cost, potentially a third of the cost of the cheapest private school. So big difference there. The trick with that is if there's one around you, depending on where you live. Out here, we had ours that we went to. There's another one in the next city over on the other side that I know about. That one is more on the college plan. But, the trick is finding one, and if it's, a good one, and if it fits you and you like the curriculum, there's of course all those things. But cost-wise, the hybrid schools are way, 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 way more affordable. Plus, you get the flexibility of having those homeschool days, which I find awesome for like appointments, things, right? If you do chiropractor, dentists, or doctors, whatever, you can always schedule those on the homeschool days, and it makes life so much easier. You don't have to worry about notes or pulling them out of school, anything like that. So you can tell which one I love school though. If I could go to school every day, that would be fabulous. I love school. Like I would go back to school just because I like being in school and learning things, okay? I love like supplies and pencils and all the things, but still, so I'm not necessarily, like I said, there's that private school right here that I just love to pieces. I cried when I left. But cost, I think, is one of the most major things. Now, let me mention this about tuition before we move on. The thing with the cost, though, most of these schools, most of the private schools, is we've gone and toured some, and I've talked to some. I know people that work at some of them or go to different ones. And most of these private schools, you will find, have some kind of financial aid. Now, some of them have scholarships. Some of them have other programs, payment plans, things like that. And, well, one of the great things most people have as well is if you pay the whole year up front, you get like a tiny little bit of discount. But on a big amount of money, a tiny little discount, hey, if you could save $100 or a couple $100, that's great, right? So there's that. If you can do that kind of thing, if you save up all year and then pay at the beginning of the year, you get that extra discount. But the financial aid programs too, we had toured at one last year when we were trying to figure out what we were doing. And I liked them. They used the same curriculum we were used to. It was really great. But I was like, the cost, would be a lot for both the kids and all that. And they were like, there's a government financial aid program that's like tax funded, I think, for private schools. And they were like, they tell everybody who comes to that school, go ahead and apply for this financial aid, because I was like, there's no way, like, we probably make too much money or whatever, but they're like, no, you would be surprised. Like, they encourage everybody. So, it doesn't hurt. If there's a private school that you really like and you think, well, we couldn't afford that, see whatever financial aid options they have available. It doesn't hurt to try and apply and just pray about it and be like, okay, God, if that's where you want us to be, then the financial things have to work out somehow. And if that's where he wants you to be, it'll work out. And if not, then, it's ask him to direct you, somewhere else. Okay, so that's tuition and financial. Okay, the next thing is facilities. Okay, the private schools, in comparison to hybrid schools, of course, the private schools are going to have much better facilities, normally. Okay, they're going to have things, sports and extracurriculars as well, both of those things. Facilities and sports and things you're generally going to find more of at the private schools. The hybrid schools will have probably little to none. And that's how they keep their cost down, though. It's a lot of hybrid schools don't even own their own facility. They might be working out of a church or some other kind of facility, or they might be renting somewhere, renting a facility. So a lot of the hybrid schools, it's just like the academic. They might have, choir or drama or something like that, but generally you won't find a gym or things like that unless they're using a church that has a gym. That is a possibility. Or clubs and things like that, extracurriculars, you don't find a lot of because, it is that hybrid. A lot of times the teachers are also parents and, they don't coach teams. However, and the private schools, though, you'll find they have their own sports teams and all kinds of things, and they have games and matches against other private schools and things like that. But what was I going to say? Okay, I was going to say something else about facilities and hybrid schools, but now I don't remember what it was. But anyway, Private schools, generally, of course, you're going to have more of those opportunities usually than hybrid schools. So as you tour, as you look at the different ones, it depends on what you're looking for. Oh, I know what I was going to say. For the hybrid schools and people who are homeschooling in general, there are lots of, you'll have to check your area, but there are lots of leagues and groups now that do sports and things for people who are homeschooling or just outside of the schools. Okay, so like we have I-9 around here you practice 1 day a week and have a game that same day. So it's 1 day a week commitment. A lot of people like I-9 out here. It can be it's a great introductory kind of league to be in and they offer all kinds of different sports. Upward is another one out here. I don't know if they have Upward across the country or if it's just this area, but Upward is like a Christian, I believe it's a Christian company, but it's, sports teams for extracurricular purposes. And it's just, you find one in your area and you join. So there are lots of opportunities, especially if you live near a big city. If you don't have that extracurricular option, if you want to go to a hybrid school, there might be one of those kinds of leagues or things in your area that you can join and kind of fill that gap. So the next thing is accreditation. Accreditation is basically, in layman's terms, like an easy word would be certification, right? The school has certified with the government that all their teachers have a certain education level and above, etc. Those kinds of things, okay? And then the credits will transfer, like when you apply to a college, or if you want to take, like in high school, a lot of times they'll take college level courses. If you're at an accredited school, those courses should count. Some schools still don't take it, depending on how they are about that. But most schools will take that credit if it's an accredited school. Hybrid schools sometimes are accredited, sometimes aren't. You'll have to check with that. Like ours that we were at was not. However, the one that I was talking about in the other city that I said was like a college style where they do like certain days a week, etc. I almost said things like that again. That one is accredited. So those courses do. So it just depends. Depending on what you're wanting to do, it might not matter if it's accredited or not. And also, like some hybrid schools also only go up through middle school. So they don't really have to be accredited because it's not going to, up through middle school, all that, like the transcript and report card. Some people get so about their report card. It's like, dude, no one's ever going to look at that report card ever again. Except like when your kid gets older and you give it to them and say, look, here's your old report card. But really, 9th grade, that's when all that stuff gets like permanent record and the college is going to look at it, right? Middle school and below, nobody cares. Everybody knows middle school is not the best time for a lot of people. So anyway, okay, accreditation. So private schools, most of the time, I think they're all accredited. You wouldn't want to go pay that much money and go to a school that's not accredited, like honestly. But hybrid schools, hit or miss, it depends. Depends on what you're looking for too. Depends on what grade, etc. Now, the next thing is the time commitment a week. Okay, private schools for the most part, it's going to be 5 days a week, standard full school day. For hybrid schools, it's usually 1 to 3 days per week. Hybrid schools, that's why it's a hybrid. It's part at school, part at home, right? So hybrid schools, I've seen, like we're going to one this year where our academic day is 1 day a week. And they have another day that's like an arts day. And there you can take one or the other or both. And the one we used to go to was 3 days a week. So it varies. I've seen everything in between as well, different places. So that one can be more flexible, like I said, schedule-wise. For the last thing is uniforms. Okay, if you go to a private school, most likely there is going to be a uniform. And the ones I've seen, standard, khaki slacks, or blue slacks or whatever, everybody always has, each school has its own set of colors, and it's like collared polo shirts, sweaters, jumpers, like all, the standard set uniform stuff. Okay. For most private schools, there is a standard uniform type thing. If not, then there is a dress code, I'm sure. Hybrid schools can vary. Now, if you have like the private school that's more on the college level and it's accredited and all that kind of thing, they're probably, they probably have more standard uniform type stuff. Our school that we were at, we just had a school, there was like a dress code, and we had school t-shirts. So each year there was a new, theme for the t-shirt. The theme went along with whatever the science or history period, and it was like a Bible verse and whatever. And so it was a school tee. The kids, you can wear, jeans or khakis or whatever pants you like best, but you had to wear the school t-shirt, which was much more comfortable than a button-up polo. Generally, some people that doesn't bother them and they're comfortable, but hybrid schools in general, uniform-wise, usually it's a school shirt. Sometimes they can have more of the uniforms, and some of them might not have any uniform or school shirt at all. It might just be a general dress code, but it's a lot more relaxed at the hybrid schools. Private schools in general, there's going to be some kind of uniform thing. Depends on where you go. Some of them don't, and they just have a dress code. It varies school to school. So that's all the things that I thought about with, private school and hybrid school. You got to look at the money, what you can afford, the days, the time commitment, a week, are you going to be able to drop off and pick up? Do they have, some of them, the bigger ones have bus service. It just depends. Tuition, entrance testing, all those things. So just look at it, see which one is better for you. You got to see what's in your area. See what they're about. See what their standards are, what their mission is. Like, do you agree with their mission statement? Their, what's the word I'm looking for? Their beliefs, their statement of beliefs. Any Christian school usually has a belief statement. Make sure you match up with that. Of course, overall, the first thing is pray about it. Where do you feel like God is directing you to go? Sometimes there's a very specific, I want you to go here. And sometimes it's a general, pick somewhere and we'll work it out, right? So good luck on all of that this year. I'm in the boat with you guys. We're trying to figure out what we're doing next year. Right now, it's looking like we just want to be I've got one that wants to just be at home and homeschool. I've got the other one that wants to go back to her old school and be with her friends. So I'm just going to pray about it and figure it out. But I hope this was helpful to everyone. I will dive in deeper to some of these things. So other school things, more details like coming up. I'm going to be doing some, showing you how I set up my teacher binder and do some planning and things like that over the summer. So there will be more of that comes. But for now, that's the end of this series. Thank you. And don't forget to hit that like button if you liked it, if it was helpful, and subscribe so that when that other stuff comes up, you'll be able to find it. Have a great week. There's, so the college credits and things like that. What is it with things like that and things like etc.? That's my version of etc., I guess. Vacation, things like that. So things like that. It's tempting just to start the whole darn thing over, but no, that would be too much work. Oh, what a mess. I don't know. This is good.